Well, it's Monday, the first official work day of the week. Today is the last Monday in the month of March 2020. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on the platform right here on Flo 94.9 FM. This is the flow of God's own state. Well, a lot is happening, especially as far as the pandemic or talking about COVID-19 is concerned. And of course, our focus is still very much on this pandemic ravaging the world, as the government and of course everyone is on their toes trying to make sure that the spread is being curtailed. Welcome to the program this morning. My name is Michael Oni. Now, last night, President Muhammadu Buhari finally broke his perceived silence on the dreaded coronavirus as he addressed Nigerians in a nationwide broadcast. Now, part of the wider measures that he announced to contain the spread of the virus was a total lockdown of Nigeria's commercial nerve center of Lagos that has remained the most hit state, neighboring Ogun State and the Federal Capital Territory Abuja, beginning from 11 p.m. today. Different states have equally come up with strategies to protect their citizens. Abia State is expecting a lockdown from Wednesday, that's the 1st of April. That's this week. First, as it has closed down its land borders, and this will certainly come with harsh economic realities on the citizens. So this morning on the platform, we're looking at the implementation of some of the measures outlined by the federal government and also the state governments. All right, and this morning we're expecting the Secretary to the state government, Abia State Secretary to the state government, talking about Barrister Chris Ezeb. But we do have here this morning a member of the civil society group of Coalition on Universal Health Coverage in Abia State, Mr. Richard Okoro. Glad to have you join us this morning on the program.
Good morning.
All right, let's begin the conversation now. I'm sure you must have gone through what the government at all levels, talking about the federal government, talking about the state government here in Abia State where we're domiciled, what they've done. Are you satisfied with what you've seen so far as a member of the civil society group?
Well, we are not satisfied completely. We're not.
Okay.
We are not satisfied because part of the reasons why I decided to come on air is to talk to our people concerning the observations we, the civil societies, have discovered, the gaps, from the government side that is not supposed to be, so that we can begin to see how, the government and the civil societies can look at these gaps and then begin to address them before it gets out of hand.
Okay. So let's take a look at some of those. What are those themes? What are your expectations? You heard the president message yesterday to Nigerians, highlighting some of the things that the government has been doing to ensure that the spread is being curtailed. Now, what are those things? What are your expectations?
Well, I will concentrate more on the situation in Abia.
Okay.
Because I'm not in Abuja.
All right.
I know that our colleagues up there are also doing the best they can. But for us in Abia State, one of the gaps we've identified is that the committee that the governor had just set up did not carry the civil societies along.
Okay.
And the civil societies has been trained by WHO, UNICEF on state preparedness for emergencies. So now, if there is a gap between the civil society groups and the government plan in whatever way they want to handle it, then that gap that will exist there will affect the entire masses.
Okay.
Because the civil society has a way of interacting with the general masses. Like, for instance, what is the proportion of Abians who listen to radio? When you talk about the semi-structured literates, like the people that do hairdressing, barbing salon, people that sell at the Ishigate and all those places, what is the level of literacy level? And what much of the information about the situation do they have? Okay, so if these gaps are not covered, because these are people that have direct access They mix up with people, a whole lot of people every day. So if these gaps are not really covered, then at the eventuality of an outbreak, then you find out that definitely the government plan which they have put in place may not be able to sustain the rush,
Okay.
which may turn out to be a tsunami, which we don't really pray for it. But we are looking at proper preparation, adequate preparations that should be put in place that will cover up any eventuality. In as much as we've not recorded any particular case in Abia, but we should do what we call strategic planning or positioning, in the face of any eventuality.
Strategic planning, you say, going through some of the releases by the state government, some immediate precautionary measures have been taken according to the state government. Are you not satisfied with some of these precautionary measures, apart from the civil society organizations not involved in some of the strategies put in place by the Abia state government?
Okay, for instance, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Yesterday after church service, I drove down to FMC. I went to Amachara.
Okay.
I wanted to see the isolation centers, the state of preparedness in these places. But what I saw was almost nothing. For instance, FMC, they can't show. I said, where are the isolation? I want to make a physical observation of what the isolation center is like. They told me that it's none there.
Where?
FMC.
Okay.
That what they have is the one for Lassa fever. Okay. So the issue now is, if we are talking about lockdown,
Yes.
which for me is not really necessary for Abia State right now, because most of the logistics, food distribution mechanism channels, the health preparedness and awareness has not been properly done. For instance, during the last elections, the INEC discovered that a lot of invalid votes were caused by people who were not properly educated about how to do proper thumb printing. So what they did was to involve the civil societies to do house-to-house campaign, to show people how to vote, how to thumb print. We had expected that there are 292 wards in Abia State.
Okay.
Now, we can distribute ourselves because we know that from history, when it comes to sensitization and mobilization, you can't take it away from the civil society groups. Good. So, if we have 292 wards in Abia, and we do what we call strategic mapping, and then begin to move into those hot spots to educate people on the precautionary measures they have to take, because of the so much news or information, so many are fake, people are confused. People are really confused, and which has prompted to this panic, unnecessary panic. So what they need right now is proper information.
All right.
Dissemination. Now the government is using the radio, fine and good, but if you go to the mix survey of 2017,
Okay.
and then you look at the proportion of number of people that use or listen to radio, it's only the educated who are mostly the very few when you do the statistical analysis of the population of Abia indigents. Now, the people, like I told you, that are these everyday hustlers, those are the Shigate, those in the market, those that do barbering and hairdressing salons, what they play most times is music. Even when they want to listen to radio, they look for the ones that are playing music. So you need to take this down to their doorsteps. I did some survey on Saturday. About 20 barbering, hairdressing salons and barbering centers I visited. None of them is using a hand glove. The least very few can do was to bathe a bucket that has a tap. Okay? But they still use the same apron to cover as many people they are barbering without covering their hands with any glove and all that. And because of their level of understanding, most of them even believe that this thing is a mirage, that it doesn't exist.
So, in the case, in some of these scenarios that you've painted here this morning, what exactly should the government do? We've had cases where a large percentage of people here in Abia State do not believe that COVID-19 exists.
That's just what I'm saying.
Okay.
When people are not well informed, they believe that until they see somebody that it happened to, or when somebody has been announced to have died from that, before they begin to believe it. And others also think that there's nothing you can do to let them get out of the street, because they make their living from their daily sales in the streets. It's what they hustle that they used to eat. So if you say you're going to do a lockdown without any proper food distribution, alternative channels, okay, so there are few families that can stock up food that will take them for 1 week in a stretch without going out to hustle. And what will it result to? It will result to pandemonium, and people will begin to break into people's homes, stores, to cut away food items. So we are expecting the government to tell us the logistical arrangement for last mile distribution in the area of food.
Okay.
Have they stocked up food, let's say in the Ministry of Agriculture, beans, all sorts of food? What are the eventuality of this coming into place? What plans do they have to cushion effects to families?
Interesting. All right, it is still the platform right here on Flo 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. And this morning we're taking a look at some of the measures and the implementation of some of the measures outlined by the government. And of course, right now we're taking a look at that measure here. Those measures right now here in Abia State put in place by the Abia State government. We're expecting the Abia State Secretary today, the state government, Barrister Chris Ezem, and of course very much here this morning is Mr. Richard Okoro, a member of the civil society group Coalition on Universal Health Coverage in Abia State, and he's been talking on some of the parameters of what the government should do. And but you've seen what has been done so far. Some of those, there are some areas I believe should impress you. Yes, it was on Saturday. The Abia Mall here was shut down, and some restaurants here in the state capital were shut down because they didn't follow the guidelines, as laid down by the government, by the Abia State government.
Yes, that's part of what I'm saying.
Okay.
If you say you are making arrangements, now where are the hand gloves? What is the distribution channel or method you are using if you procured some?
Okay.
We've not seen. Now, the sanitizers, the hand sanitizers, are virtually missing in the stores. They are not there.
So
they are very expensive.
These are some of the responsibilities expected by the government.
Exactly.
Distribution of hand sanitizers.
Like few of the hairdressers and barber salon people I asked said they've gone to buy, it is expensive or it is not out there, that they were expecting government to share these things out to them free of charge, so that at their level they can now begin to understand. Now this thing, before you talk about lockdown, we had expected to do this proper sensitization for people to really understand, especially for those people that has no knowledge of what this thing is all about. Okay. Before you now begin to talk about lockdown. But when you keep talking about lockdown because other states have done theirs, we don't know the framework or the plans that these states did before they did their lockdown.
But as it stands now, there is an influx of people from Lagos, from FCT down to the southeast, especially those that are from this area.
Exactly.
Instead of that, to curtail the spread of this virus, there should be limit in the movement of passengers.
I agree with you.
Probably, I'm not speaking for the government. Probably one of the reasons considered by the government to shut down those borders. We have River State with one case, neighboring state to Abia State. We have Bonny State.
I completely agree with you, Michael. But what I'm saying is, before you do this lockdown, you would have done a proper arrangement. For instance, this issue of worker salaries. This morning, I've called so many of the LGNs. I don't think they've received any salary. Maybe the state's people, Ministry of, state parastatal, have gotten their salaries.
Okay.
Now, we're talking about locking down when so many families have not gotten money to go and do this buying. And besides, go to the market now. The inflation has risen up to 200%. So if you want to lock down by Wednesday, 1st of April, then how do you want families to survive? Some people were even of the opinion that the government would have paid 2 months' salaries, even if it's an IOU or upfront, for these families to go and do these food purchases before you begin to do your lockdown. Now, if you do this lockdown, go to the banks right now as I'm talking to you. More than 5 or 10 persons don't go into a bank. Go to First Bank, for instance, and see the crowd there. From the bank to the main road, everywhere is crowded. So people are already panicking. So if you're talking about lockdown, people already, the distance measures that people are supposed to take, people are already panicking. So if we had done proper sensitization and then we are very little bit proactive in doing some of the things we are doing right now, then people don't need to go and crowd at the banks.
Okay, interesting. Let's open the phone lines and get reactions from those listening to us this morning on the program. But then we need to go for a break, and when we return, we'll talk much more. Of course, do the analysis with you here, some of the implementation of some of the measures outlined by the Abia State government. It is the platform right here on Flo 94.9 FM. And Mr. Richard Okoro, a member of the civil society group, a coalition on universal health coverage in Abia State, is still very much here.
At Flo 94.9 FM, we've got conducive and well-secured environment for business. High-tech video studio, a state-of-the-art production studio. You can also listen live on www.flo949fm.com and watch our videos on YouTube at Flo Fm Tv. Flo 94.9 FM, not just radio, but a complete broadcasting house.
Well, it is still the platform right here, Monday edition on Flo 94.9 FM. And of course, we've been talking about some of the implementation of some of the measures, outlined by the state government. We're expecting the Secretary to the state government, Abia State Secretary to the state government, Barrister Chris Ezem. But although we have here Mr. Richard Okoro, a member of the civil society group, Coalition on Universal Health Coverage in Abia State. But I need to let you know some of the basic precautionary measures. We've been talking about them right here. Some of those things you should have at the tip of your fingers. Wash your hands frequently. It's very, very important. You should also avoid touching your eyes and mouth and the nose. It's very important because these are the openings where the virus can actually enter your body system. You need to also cover your mouth and nose with your bent elbow, like you're dabbing, or tissue, and you dispose the tissue, especially when you're coughing or you're sneezing. Avoid crowded places. One of the reasons why there is a this social distancing campaign about 2 meters or 3 meters away, and stay at home if you feel unwell. Very important, stay at home if you're feeling unwell. So we have an emergency response number here also in Abia State. It is very important, especially if you want to confirm some of the rumors going around. There is a number you can call. I'm going to read out the numbers right now. 0700 2242 362. I will take that again. Or if you have a suspected case, maybe your neighbor or something, the number you can also call. It's the same number, 0700 0700. I take that again, 2242 362. All right, let's open the phone lines. Let's hear from you this morning on the program, the platform. 0808 182 6949 or 0811 605 2949. You can also drop messages on 0906 510 8289. Let's get your reactions. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Michael.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, my special guest.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Madam Edward, aka Editor-in-Chief / Iron Pillar. This morning I called you from the good people of Aliki Kinazobo.
Welcome.
On this pandemic that is going on now, and the government is talking about shutdown, the speed of movement, and all that. This is the high time that we should benefit from the oil we are producing. We are producing the oil, but we are suffering. Right now, Mr. President have addressed the country yesterday, but he never directed the financial institution or the financial bank of this country to make use of the donated money. Those donated money from here and there. At least now people are going back home, staying at home. Most people doesn't have money. Most people doesn't receive salary. Most people have shut down their shops. What they should do, they have BVN. Let them share something to people so that we can sustain life.
All right.
Look at now, a pint of Gary is 1,200 to 300 in our area now. A cup of rice is almost 120. We go to onions, pepper, all those domestic. I don't know why those things we are attracting high cost now, because it is only the sickness good.
All right, Mr. Amadu Edward, thank you for your contribution. Your time is up. Keep your calls coming, keep your messages coming. On the SMS line, Ugona says Nigeria is beginning to reap big time the fruit of hard labor planted in illiteracy, abject poverty, poor hygiene, and greed. The devastating effect will reach all and sundry. The nation that foretook her citizens over the years will pay a big time we are currently experiencing. That's coming from Ugona. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I'm also breaking the gate in the house.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, I want to add my voice. My name is Taufik, calling from Ghana.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I want to add my voice to the situation of this coronavirus in the society now. And my worry has been, people have been donating, that of Dangote, Alibaba, and all that. But at this, our local level, I think this is the time for the politicians to give back to the society, no matter how little. For instance, if you give 1 million naira, if they're not able to notice, but go to your constituency, whatever you can do in your local community as a politician, this is the time to come down from Abuja and come and assist the people. Because now, somebody talk about, a bottle of Gary, these things have sold, the prices in the market have sold, that they have gone so bad that you ask people to stay at home, even when out to even walk. So even make up with some of these things are difficult. Now you ask them to stay at home, but the crisis part, nothing to reckon about. So I think this is the time the politicians to give back to society. These are the people that say under the sun to vote for them. This is the time to give little back to them. Thank you, and God very much.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning, Michael.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm Coach Joy. Good
Welcome,
morning to
Coach.
your guest.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you, sir. See, my own point is this. I've been hearing jingles up and down by this person, this lawmaker, this person, this group. I think it's not enough. What is very, very important now is for people to come up on air and say they have provided these sanitizers, face masks, hand gloves, foodstuffs. People are going to die inside the house, so but God forbid. Because somebody said they are selling rice 120. It's not true. As a woman, I went to the market yesterday. It was terrible. Pint of Gary 18, 19. And things are not there. Things that you're buying 200 before. It's now 600. It's really serious, so but we're not seeing it that way. Then may God help us. That's my take here.
All right.
Let them come up, those money
Coach
back.
Joy.
Let them come up and bring out this money.
Thank
Let
you.
them share back surprise. Let them put money
Thank
in
you very
people's
much.
account.
Let's take reactions on the SMS line. Good morning, sir. Lockdown in Abia State is good, but is government to do in the area of food sharing? A plant of Gary has increased from 600 to 1,000 a plant. Hunger will kill people, not COVID-19. Chinegbo from Aba. Well, good to ask that question because we have the Abia State Secretary to the state government, Secretary to the state government, Abia State government, very much in the studio here with us this morning. Joining on the conversation, Barrister Chris Ezem. Good morning to you, Barrister.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join us this morning on the program. Now,
Thank you.
a lot has been said. Mr. Richard Okoro is a member of the civil society very much here, and he, has been asking some of the questions, some questions on some of the implementations being put in place by the Abia State government. What does the state have in store for the citizens as the lockdown looms?
Okay, thank you. The state has approved lockdown, and lockdown will start from 1st of April, which gives that notice was given at the weekend, which gives people sufficient time to take some measures. And I will tell you that lockdown does not mean we are going to shut down everywhere. There will be exceptions. There will be exceptions. You're not going to shut down healthcare. You're going to shut down those rendering essential services. You're not going to shut down filling stations. There will be exceptions to it. And you can't say somebody who is down cannot go to a pharmacy to buy medicine. So we're going to create exceptions to it to make the situation manageable. And in it again, we will allow those who sell essentials like foodstuffs to sell. They can sell at the front of their houses. The people can still have things to buy. I've heard somebody talking about food and whatever. Government is making arrangements to bring in foodstuffs that will be distributed through the communities, through the local government, to reach basically the less privileged, the aged, and the school children. We are doing that already.
So how is that going to be achieved? A lot of cushioning effect has been expected from the government.
You will realize that if you ask civil servants, since Friday, we've gone on paying salaries. Up till yesterday, we've been paying. Today, just remaining some fractions. Ministry of Finance to ensure that all those are captured today, to make sure people have funds with them. And like I've said again, government is making arrangements to bring in food items. Those arrangements are being made, and they're in process, and they will come in. And even when we are locking down the boundaries, we will create exception for those bringing in those food items to come in. As much as we do take measures to check them with respect to their state of health, use the digital thermometer to check them, check their temperatures, ensure that we sanitize them as they come in, so that we don't equally allow people to bring in food and bring in what we don't want. Okay. Thank you.
All right, interesting now. I want to ask you about the lockdown now. Again, some of the cushioning effects, people are asking questions, keke riders, in fact, as it stands now from last week, the government, brought out a measure that they should not have more than 2 persons as passengers that should be seated at the back because of the social distancing, one of the precautionary measures, being put in place by the World Health Organization now. Keke, that's Okebeke, the bus is 5. Some of them are, not happy that as it stands now, the state government is still, collecting the taxes, the normal. They're saying the state government should relax it, and because it is also affecting, the prices of a drop. For example, a place that you should pay 50 naira, they are saying no, we'll collect 100 naira, and that in turn is affecting the common man on the street. So these are some of the cushioning effects they are asking the government. I don't know how you want to respond to that.
I will react just in two fronts. One,
okay.
I will continue to encourage transporters as it affects keke riders, okada riders, the buses to adhere strictly to the numbers. Why we're saying that is that social distance is in the first measure. First measure to avoid the spread of this. And if you take that, if everybody applies that, then we are taking the first major steps that keeps us 40% achieving results.
Okay.
With respect to their cry on as regards the taxes they pay, which is still what they are paying, I can assure you that we'll address that today. Okay, I'm going to have a meeting today. I will look into that.
Interesting.
I will come out with something.
Now, the issue of isolation centers in Abia State, we need to take a look at the preparedness of the government. Thank God we do not have a case yet in Abia State, and we're praying that we will not have any case till this has been curtailed. The issue of isolation centers, how many do we have in Abia State, and are they well equipped?
I can tell you that Amachara and Absut teaching hospital have been identified. We've created places in those areas, and the Honorable Commissioner for Health and his team have put those places, the isolation centers in place, and the items we need to keep them We're procuring most of them. We have some and are procuring more.
Okay.
Yeah, and we want to even create additional ones so that we don't pray for any emergency, but we want to be ready.
Should in case we have a case in Abia State now.
Yeah.
There are bags needed, those testing bags that are needed, with sample bags rather that are needed. Do we have them?
We have the medical protocol team in place already, headed by the chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association to handle any case we have at hand, and I think they are ready.
Our time is fast spent, SSD. We hope to have you some other time on some of our programs. Now, how do you want to respond to that call?
We are not going to sell foods. We are not going to sell. We will distribute food. We will give food. We will give food to less privileged. We will give food to the elderly.
I guess the channel now.
And then
how you're going to get
we will
about
make
it.
sure it gets to the communities. We have arrangement. We have a food committee. We have a food committee set up already, and they are working already. This will get to the communities through the local government, through the traditional rulers, through the youth leaders, through the women leaders. It will get to them.
All right, Mr. Richard Okoro.
Yes, what I want to say is that why are they excluding the civil society groups from these committees? Like I told you, most of us have been trained by UNICEF, WHO on the state of preparedness during emergencies. We have our members spread in the whole 17 LOGS. Now, the SAG is saying all these beautiful things, fine and good. How do we verify them? Because the government cannot monitor themselves. The civil societies, like I told you, the role INEC played during the voters before the election, house-to-house campaigning. Like I said before, there are so many families that are living in face me, I face you apartments, and they're not well informed. When you touch a close the door, the gate, what do? People that are the salons, hairdressers, those semi-illiterate, what information do they have? If you have committees on food and the distribution of hand gloves and all that, and the civil societies are not there to verify these claims, it becomes very difficult because we've gotten to a point where most people at the communities don't really believe what the government say.
All right, Barrister. It seems you're on the spotlight this morning as you're representing the government on the program.
When my brother says verify the claims, then it means like government is making spurious claims. We are not making spurious claims. Whatever we say, whatever we put on radio are the facts. And you will agree with me. And I think one of the meetings I had in my office, I think we have one of the society person who attended that meeting. I will check the records again. And we're not excluding anybody. If you have ideas, you have things you need, you think we should input, you will make, just put it across. And I want to assure him, going forward, we will carry them along if they think they've been excluded. Thank you.
All right. Readiness of Abia State again and assurance coming from you, the SSG, before we wrap up things here this morning.
I want to assure Abians that the government of the state is on top of this matter, on top of it in all ramifications. And government is not taking Abians for granted. We want to protect Abians. We want to protect there's no outbreak of this. We want to ensure that we're on ground, and we are doing everything to ensure that Abians are safe. I want to assure and urge everyone to comply with the directives we are giving. Those directives are for our own goods, for the goods of Abians, for our safety. Thank you.
Mr. Richard Okoro.
Well, like I said, we did it for INEC when there was an issue of voter problems. We can do it again for our states. Like I said, when you work with a group that has a coalition, that has a state representation, it's far much better than working with an individual who is not health related. If we work together, like we said, then the information we're going to pass out will be much easier. Like he said, there are things they may not have taken into place, because if you've not been trained in emergency preparedness, you may not know the critical things. How do even the distribution of the food he talked about? How do you do the vulnerability index analysis?
All right, Mr. Richard, our time is fast spent this morning. I want to really appreciate you for being part of the program, a member of the Civil Society Group Coalition on Universal Health Coverage in Abia State. Thank you very much. And Barrister Chris Ezem, is it your first time in the studios of Flo 94.9 FM? You're welcome. Hope to have you on some issues. Of course, as far as you're a member of that committee, and of course, we hope to have you. We hope to have you some other time also to talk much more on COVID-19 here in Abia State. Thank you very much, Barrister Chris Ezem, for being part of the program this morning.
Thank you.
The Secretary to the State Government. My name is Michael Oni. Many thanks for being part of the program. The program returns on Wednesday, and many thanks to the producer. Don't forget, this edition of the program is going to be on our YouTube today, Flo Fm TV on YouTube. Thank you very much Enjoy the rest of your day.